Set!
Blitz is defined as a sudden, savage attack. It is indeed all this. The effect is sure. The premise is simple. It's a basic, primal confrontation, man to man. No excuses are offered. None accepted.
Welcome to the latest edition of Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com.
Looks like a radio station.
Now, here are your hosts, lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers,
pure athlete, yeah.
I transcend race, hombre.
Matt Butler.
I don't talk, man. I back it up.
And we are chock full of that.
Damn right.
And Jeff Howe.
It's still real to me, damn it.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
If you're gonna blitz, come strong, but don't come at all.
Oh, it was real on Saturday at the Cotton Bowl, and not in a good way for the Longhorns. The scoreboard said Oklahoma 34, Texas 27, a 7-point loss for Tom Herman and company, but it certainly did not feel that way, and we will break it all down here on this edition of Longhorn Blitz with Horns 24/7. I am Jeff Howe. Let me bring in the rest of the team. He is the master of the soundboard, the drop machine extraordinaire, Matt Butler. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty well. Yourself?
Ready to dive head first into this. And a man who's always ready for some Texas OU talk. Lifetime Longhorn, 2002 UT All-American, 2002 semifinalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, fourth-round draft choice of the New York Giants in 2003. Spent his NFL career with the Giants, Lions, Bears, Bucs, Broncos, and a year with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL. When he was done with football, got himself back to Austin, Texas in the 40 acres where he earned his degree. Whenever that T-ring comes back in, he will wear it proudly. Nevertheless, he is a card-carrying member of DBU. And when you get that All-American honor recognized by the NCAA, you get that black card. Number 21 in your program, number one in your hearts, Mr. Rod Babers. And,
thanks for the intro, brother.
Rod,
as always.
I don't really know where to start with this. Before we dive into the numbers, just a generalization.
Okay.
There's two ways you can look at this game. One is the glass half full view and the glass half empty view. Hint, I think most of you listening to this are taking the glass half empty view, but bear with me for a second. The glass half full view is Texas lost a 7-point game to the number now 5 team in the country that looks like they're one of the better teams in the country with a much improved defense. And as bad as Texas played, they had a chance to win it in regulation. And this is still a Texas program that's in a decade where we've talked about rebuilding and state of growth and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, Texas is 2 years removed from a 7-win season under Tom Herman. And last year, 9 regular season wins and played for the Big 12 title and won the Sugar Bowl and all that stuff. So you can certainly see it that way. I'm with the group, Rod, that looks the glass half empty and says, above all else, the one thing under Tom Herman that you've been able to count on in big games is that they will be prepared and they will be physical.
Yeah.
So 2 things we've come to count on from Texas. And without question, the 2 things I can say about Saturday, they were not prepared and they were not physical.
I agree with
that.
both of
To
those
me
things.
is where we could talk about missed tackles and missed opportunities in the downfield passing game and all the other stuff. But for me, that is the most disappointing aspect of Saturday. And that's why it was a 7-point loss that, to me, watching it from inside the stadium, it felt like a 27-point loss.
I agree with that. It felt like Oklahoma. This is what I said on the post game. We talk about how that game is about momentum in a lot of ways. I can't remember a stretch where Texas had the momentum for longer than maybe 2-3 minutes,
maybe in the third quarter when you sort of started moving the ball.
Can you think of? I can't think of a stretch where they had it. You know what I mean? They definitely didn't have it on a back-to-back series, either offensively or defensively.
And then have to give the ball back.
Yeah, or
score,
special teams would do something bad, and then
Yeah.
you would
It
get
was just
deep
like
into
how
your
you
own
talk
territory.
about your pick six in that game, and how
yes,
it did.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. The momentum was nullified after my pick six. Hate to keep bringing that up, but you know what I mean. Like I get the no, it is. I got the pick six. We go up 14-3. They immediately return the kickoff deep in our territory. Then they score a touchdown. They make it 14. I think he made it 14-9. Then he actually goes for 2 points. All right, because Bob Stoops understands. No, we want to kill that momentum. We want to squash it. I want to shoot it dead, buried in the backyard, so that Texas fans don't even remember that. And we didn't. After the 2-point conversion, it was basically it. It was back to business. And we never really got a chance to feast off that momentum in the game. Texas never had momentum for more than one. I don't even know if they had it for a complete drive because even during a drive, maybe the Rashawn Johnson run.
That's
that
the
drive,
one
but
time
it was just because of
where,
that big play. It was a 57-yard play. I don't know if you had momentum. You just got a big play and then you were able to punch it in. So I just don't know if they ever were able to have the momentum. Going to your point, it always felt like it was Oklahoma's game. Even though it was 10-3 at halftime and it was still 2017 at fourth quarter, there was a point where that game was up for grabs. It was there for the taking. Even though you played like, you know, I mean,
there was no momentum.
It was there for the taking, and still you didn't go take it. Oklahoma went and took it. That was a disappointing thing.
Yeah,
because I was like 2017. I was like, man, we got a shot.
Yeah,
we've been playing really bad, and we still got a shot.
Where I thought Texas had a chance to grab it, and I'm not saying anything that's outside the box in terms of football talk, but they're driving and they get the field goal right before, even though that offensive series was a clunky drive.
Yeah,
Cameron Dicker connects on the field goal, and you're thinking, as bad as that first half was, it was awful in pretty much every phase of the game.
It was pretty bad.
It's 10-3, and you get the ball back to start the second half.
Yeah.
To your point, Rod, to me, it wasn't momentum, but it's like, okay, this game's there for the taking. Like, go take it.
Go take it.
Because normally you're used to OU putting the foot on the throat in those situations.
Trust
and you
me,
blowing
I remember
it out.
Yeah. When you make mistakes, everything's exacerbated in that game, right? Everything is blown. Everything is taken to the extreme in that game. So but you know what? That goes to OU too. When did they make their mistakes? In the red zone. Yeah. In the worst possible offensive situation, you made the worst possible decision. So yeah, I was shocked that Texas didn't go out and try to, either with the game plan or a tactical change, or even with the leaders and the captains on the team to say, this is Texas OU and it's here for the taking. Guys, it's here for the taking in the fourth quarter. I never saw anybody make that initiative to go out and take that game, whether it be the coaches or the players. They didn't want it bad enough, unfortunately.
And that's where the sort of one thing we've talked about the last few years that Texas has lacked and has also been poor at stopping is explosive plays and the explosivity. And even though Texas was able to get the stops, whenever you forced OU to go and make a long drive, you could see that, well, if you do it 10 times, we may stop them in the red zone. We may do something.
Yeah.
But what beat Texas? A couple big explosive plays. Now, were some of them maybe because you missed the tackles yourselves, or some were schemed wide open, some were just because Jalen Hurts identified man coverage, didn't have a spy and would run and take off. Thing is Texas lacks explosivity, so in those few plays, whenever you have a chance, they get a big score. They get 7 points rewarded from it. Texas is fighting hard all game long, gets stops, keeps you close, but you drop the pass, say Colin Johnson could have busted for an 85-yard touchdown, or like
the Brennan Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. So the ideas and the areas for explosivity, those weren't capitalized by Texas while they were for Oklahoma. And it was only because Oklahoma over time was able to move the ball, but Texas made a few plays on defense. Just wasn't enough. You can't do that if you aren't going to be able to get both ends to support one another. It had been the offense supporting the defense for most of the year. Now the defense helps support the offense in this game.
Yeah, no, the defense, in my opinion, I know people will criticize the defense too, but I thought the defense kept you in the game for 3 quarters. And I think the dam broke, as inevitably it will, against a top 2, top 3 offense in college football.
Two players beat you.
When you can keep the best offense arguably in college football to 10 points at halftime, dude, honestly, I can't say you hadn't done your job. Now, I know it was ugly and it was unconventional and unorthodox, and people were like, man, he should have did this and the missed tackles, and we'll get into all that. But, man, in terms of just the points on the board, dude, 10 points?
And undermanned defense.
20 going into the fourth? That's Tom Herman. That's on Tom Herman and the offense, man. I always say playing as a defensive player, playing with a lead, it's different as a defense playing with a lead when you're playing at a deficit.
Yeah.
I always compare it to a confidence issue. It's like going out and hitting on women on payday, as opposed to hitting on a woman when you broke. It's you're a different person, and I think you play differently when you have a lead. And they were playing with desperation. And hell, if Deshaun Jameson gets that other interception, it may be an entirely different game, because the stats are that when Todd Orlando's defense get 3 turnovers, they're undefeated with Tom Herman. They're 18-0. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that would be the case, but that's how drastic and dramatic those turnovers in the red zone were.
So it's just that momentum shift.
Oh man, it was huge for them to get 0 points. Think about the Texas LSU game. We got 0 points of those 2 red zone opportunities. That's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game in a nutshell. You want to know what happened? That's the game.
Yeah, there's multiple ways we can go about this, but I want to start with the Texas offense, Rod. And
I'm with you.
I'll be quite honest, and people can take this however they want, and I don't really care. I thought it was an arrogant game plan by the Texas staff. It's almost like the staff just came out and said, no, you know what? We're not even going to worry about what Oklahoma's doing. As long as we do what we do, we'll be fine. And that had been the case. But what we talked all offseason about this with Oklahoma's defense. Like, yes, their talent at safety is not what it should be at Oklahoma, at a place like Oklahoma. And their corners, are they better? I don't know, but at least they're playing with confidence, which they weren't at any point last year.
Yeah, Murray's confident.
But they had talent in the front seven.
Yeah.
Defensively.
Gallimore.
Yeah.
Neville Gallimore is a talented, he's a freak athlete at nose. Ronnie Perkins is probably going to play in the NFL. Kenneth Murray's probably going to play in the NFL. And what Alex Grinch did, it's nothing that complicated. Rod, what's one of my favorite sayings? Football is a simple game made complicated by simple men.
Love that quote.
Sometimes it's just it's like Occam's razor. The best explanation is usually the simplest explanation.
Yeah.
I know I just butchered Occam's razor, so
That's
forgive
right.
me for that.
That's right, man. No worry about it.
You know, it's almost like Alex Grinch went into this game and said, okay, if we try to play Texas straight up, we're going to get our face smashed in because this offensive line's good. And what's the one thing this offensive line's shown they don't do well? Don't handle movement very well. Which offensive line does handle movement very well.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying the defense can't defend a dual threat quarterback. Well, okay, tell me a defense that does
Good point.
act properly defend a good dual threat quarterback.
Thank you for saying that because that's very hard to do.
Right.
Well, you should try to keep a spy on them.
Yeah.
It would help. Anyway,
we'll get to
but
that.
I digress.
We'll get to that.
I brought it up too.
But it's almost like Alex
try to
Grinch said,
do.
okay, they're really good once they get locked onto you, but you can't hit the target if the target's constantly moving.
Yeah. No.
And Texas didn't adjust at all.
Yep.
And they used Kenneth Murray to spy Sam Ehlinger, to shadow him and run stuff down in the alleys. And basically Oklahoma did everything Tom Herman said they were going to do.
He said they're
going to move a lot up front.
Yeah,
Kenneth Murray's really athletic, and they use him in different ways.
Yep.
Their safeties, when they see run or they see screens, come screaming downhill down the alley. They did everything you said they were going to do, and you had no counterpunch at all.
I agree. 100%. And I think let me give props to Oklahoma and that defense, though. They were much improved. We said they were just, I knew they were going to be better.
Well, this was going to be the test for them. We were going to figure out how much better they were.
Yeah. I didn't know they were going to be that much better. And I think, I think they did give them a schematic advantage, with the twists and the stunts and the loops. And that's something that Texas struggled with even versus LSU. And I think Alex Grinch saw it. He was like, oh, no, that's something that we can do.
West Virginia watched that LSU film.
But out of those 9 sacks, and I think 7 of them were by different players. So it ain't no fun if my homies can't have none. Everybody got in on that thing. Neville Gallimore had 2 of them, and they had one
Ronnie
team
Perkins
sack.
had like 1.5.
Yeah,
Neville had one that's worth 2.
Oh, he had one that was a spin move. The first one, on Shaq, that was a beautiful. That was
one-on-one
an NFL highlight tape. Yeah. But I counted
N1 mixtape.
I only counted 3 ones that they got via the blitz. But most of them, man, it was just movement. It was just they would send 3 or 4, but they would send them on a loop, an X stunt or a twist, and that's how they would get guys kind of wide open. So at times there would be 2 guys on one, he still get a sack because the offensive line missed passing off the defender and the pass rusher. So I think Herb Hand, now they got to go back to work because now that has been identified as a weakness of your O-line. So now everybody's going to do it. I mean, if you're stupid if you don't do it.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
it's not even, you don't have to.
Thank God West Virginia didn't do enough of it. If West Virginia with the Steele brothers had done more of it, they probably would have.
It's like you talked about with the defense last year after the Maryland game, right? If you don't have fly sweep in your playbook, put it in now.
Put it in now. Can't stop it. All right now, if you're Kansas, you're like, all right, man, let's practicing our loops and our twist stunts.
There you go. But I just thought it was an arrogant game plan, Rod. I didn't see any adjustments. And
we said this about LSU. Mm-hmm. We came in here after the LSU game, and because it was a closer game, and it was earlier in the season. We were, and you were the one that brought up. You were like, I believe Tom Herman just said, you know what? I'm going to come in here and we're going to do what we do. We got a bread and butter. We got an identity, and we're going to beat them. Our guys are better than your guys. Almost using it as a test because we knew going into the Big 12, that's what mattered to Tom Herman.
Exactly.
Winning the Big 12. So that was our theory.
Things would change.
We figured in the Big 12. No. In the big games in the Big 12, that's when he's going to break out. That's when you're going to see him get innovative, very creative. That's when you're going to see him drop in some wrinkles. And I think we have seen some of that, but for the most part, going into that game, I thought early on, he was doing like a rope-a-dope. I assumed he was setting Oklahoma up for something with the wide receiver screens and the very kind of simplistic route concept. I was like, oh, he's setting him up for so. Oh, dude, he's about to.
I did too.
Nothing came.
I was like, he's about to lay the counter on him as soon as he sucker him in.
And you know what?
And it never came. I was like, what the? That was it?
Yeah, but you know what else too?
was...
I felt that watching the game. And then I went back and rewatched the game last night, which I never do, but it was one of those deals I just couldn't sleep. And I'm like, I'm just going to rewatch this
I've
game.
watched it 2 times.
And I'm listening to the broadcast. Joel Klatt saying the same thing. He's like, surely they're setting something up.
Like, you know they're setting something up. There's no way they went into the game plan thinking. Because my point is, okay, so you basically telling me, Tom Herman, you didn't have a plan in case people could tackle Devin Duvernay on the wide receiver screen. Like just in case they were really good at tackling that, you didn't have a counter. You didn't have you know what I mean? Like, and then you know what? And I will say this: is it fair? Would anything work when your offensive line is getting beat like that? But the screen pass worked. The one traditional screen they ran in the second half got like 13 yards. And we've been screaming, you know what? They should run more of the traditional screen. We know you love the wide receiver screen, but the traditional screen when teams are
use the
screaming
pass rush
down
against them,
use their aggressiveness against. We saw only one of those,
and that's why the Roschon Johnson run popped, Rod.
Exactly.
Because when you're getting slants, an inside zone or a zone run game is perfect against that. Because guess what? If the running back reads it right, oh my gosh, I could drive a truck through the backside B gap. It's wide open.
Yeah.
And like somebody asked me at halftime, like, what do you think they should do? I'm like, I think they need to at least try to establish the run because they didn't try in the first half.
It was a close game. You can't say you were out of the game.
Right.
That's why you just
at least try to see if you can run the ball. And then boom, you popped it. Roschon Johnson had 80 yards on 2 carries in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you never really went back to it.
He was your best offensive player.
And here's the thing. I know everybody's going to wonder, why is Roschon Johnson not RB1? To me, that's not the issue. The issue offensively to me is, why do you continue to run 11 personnel out there when 11 personnel is clearly at this point not your best personnel group? Like, with all due respect to Cade Brewer, let me just get this point out right, and then I'll let you
go ahead.
This offense misses Andrew Beck. And we talked about the value of Andrew Beck is as a blocker because he's on a 53-man roster. Like he's been an active NFL player this year, and the Broncos haven't been paying him to catch passes.
Yep.
He's on their roster because he's a blocker.
Belichick brought him in first.
Yes.
Because Belichick
gave him a really big guaranteed contract for an undrafted free agent. I think it's the biggest one the Patriots gave out this year.
It was, yeah.
They just ended up, their fullbacks were good, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. But that's how good Andrew Beck was. And it's almost like they've taken Cade Brewer and say, okay, go be Andrew Beck. Okay, Cade Brewer's not Andrew Beck.
Agreed.
But at this point, Cade Brewer's not enough of an asset in the passing game to where you can say, okay, 11 personnel is your best grouping. If you'd like Keontae Ingram that much, and Tom Herman still does, then start running more 20 personnel.
20 is a good personnel for him.
Because honestly, Rod, at this point, can you tell me that Cade Brewer is that much of a better blocker setting the edge than Keontae Ingram would be?
Tom Herman would argue yes.
But can you tell me he's significantly that much better?
I don't. No, I mean, I think he probably is, but it depends on how you want to use him. Yeah, it depends on how you want. With 20 personnel, you can use him. They'll be blocking different people.
Out wide.
Yeah, they'll be blocking different people. You know what I mean? He's blocking more defensive ends and
well, and
then
he's still the even though he's not a receiving threat per se as we perceive receiving threats, he still splits out wide and will run routes and consume.
I'll say this: I agree with you in principle.
I agree with you
because you know I've said the 10 personnel. They need to start using more of that too.
And I think
that's what I want.
I don't think you should abandon.
I think they used the 2 drives in the OU game, maybe.
Yeah, I got to go back and track it. I remember it maybe during the 2-minute drill.
I'd have to rewatch it because I was looking for it.
A lot of time I remember it's Cade Brewer though. Yeah, because it's even in the 2-minute situation, I'm like, hey, 2-minute situation, you got to score quickly.
They're still like a 90% 11 personnel team.
Yeah, so I'm with you, and it's nothing against Cade Brewer, but I'm with you at this point. And I've heard people talking about this. We know what the defense is, and we're not getting big picture yet. But just a quick point. Now, with all the injuries, which we'll get into a little bit later on, as we talk about the defense and everything, this team is only going to beat people by outscoring them.
Yeah,
and they're going to beat people with. And honestly, the way your special teams is performing, you ain't going to win with hidden yardage either. I'm just going to be honest, right? And your defense, with all the injuries, it ain't getting better.
It's almost like with special teams, it's almost like your return game is so bad whatever good Bushevsky and Dicker are doing is getting
Exactly.
canceled out because your return team is so bad.
Exactly. So you just average there. That's not going to win you games. Your
Deshaun
defense,
Jameson
let's
was
be
just
honest.
against the
Yeah, your
Rice.
defense is going to be a liability because it's too beat up. It's too beat up. Until you get healthy, I don't know if there's much that Todd Orlando can do other than simplifying things schematically, which is going to also make you exploitable in the Big 12.
Right.
All right, let's be honest. Okay, so the offense, you got to score, baby. You got to do what Oklahoma did last couple of years. Say, all right, every other phase of the game is not great, but we have something special and unique on this side of the ball. We got weapons, so we got to score. And to that point, I think you're right. I think we can't afford wasted reps. We can't afford, wasted opportunities for guys. Like I need that, that route, that corner route to go to Jake Smith instead of Cade Brewer because there's a bigger chance of the explosive play. You know what I mean? That we can score a touchdown instead of just getting a first down. Like that's how you got to start thinking because otherwise, you could lose to a Baylor.
Yeah.
You can lose to Iowa State. And I said it on my show.
Hell, you can lose 2 weeks from now to TCU.
Exactly. You can get out. You end up getting
because
out
I guarantee you Gary Patterson's going to have a defensive game plan for whatever you're doing, so you better do something different.
And Gary Patterson teams get better throughout the years, no matter how bad they start at the beginning. And I said this on my show, Longhorn fans were only going to accept 2 losses and be kind about it. OU and LSU. That's it. Everybody else, any other loss, they're not going to be kind.
They're not being real kind about the OU
I know,
loss.
but I know because it was ugly. But we understand it's LSU. It's like they're powerhouses. They're a blue blood like us.
There isn't a fire Tom Herman crowd.
Yes,
there might be one if you otherwise.
You lose to a Baylor or even TCU. There's going to be people going to start coming out like, you know what? I think this guy's a joke. I don't even know if he's the real deal. You know what I mean? Like they're going to get those guys because. That's the only losses that are acceptable right now. Okay, so let's get back to the offense.
No, but I just think it goes back to the fact that this offense didn't look prepared. They didn't have any counter punches, and it's almost like they just expected to smash OU in the mouth and to have success.
Throw deep balls, our guys will beat your guys.
And once OU hit back, it felt like some of the games we've seen Oklahoma play in this game the last few years. Like when Texas punched Oklahoma in the mouth and they weren't ready for it and just spent the whole game trying to recover.
Yep.
Texas got punched in the mouth early and then spent the whole game trying to recover.
That's my thing. You saw, even this is a frustrating thing. In the Big 12 title game, we saw innovation from them, right? When they had to play OU twice. And maybe they're saving it for the second time they play OU, which would be stupid. But remember when they moved Colin Johnson around, they motioned Keontae Ingram outside of him. Yeah. And they put him inside in the slot. They had him run the seam route, then they had him run that deep crossing route. And you saw them try to be a little bit innovative. The fact that I don't see any bunch formations out of this team, it's mind blowing. In today's football, no bunch formation.
Did you see the inside joke that Hurts brought 2 Starbursts out to Coach Riley for the press conference, and they ate 2 red Starbursts?
No way.
He when you watch Jalen Hurts come in, he comes in silently, hands a red Starburst to him, he eats it. And he just says, nice. And then they go on. And I knew what exactly they were doing. And they were taking a stab at Texas for not being inventive on offense.
Look at CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Look at how they use him. He's moving around. He's a jet sweep guy. They got him doing orb motion. Man, they got him doing. Why even give a team a chance to single him in terms of his position?
Yep.
Give a chance to single him out within their defensive coverage. No, move him around and then put them in a conundrum. Put them in a situation where they got to change the defensive integrity just to account for his movement. Then he can just be a distraction. Then he doesn't even have to actually get the ball. But when CeeDee Lamb makes that move, the whole entire defense, I'm sure, is like, oh damn. You got to change. Somebody's going to account for him. And when you don't account for him, what happened?
Yeah.
Touchdowns. Yeah. So the fact that they won't do that and they won't put Colin Johnson in motion or put him at a flex or put him at a minus split or put them in bunch formations to give them easier releases against corners and route concepts. That's why a lot of those sacks also coverage sacks.
Yeah, and because
guys weren't open.
And Jake Smith got open on the one he dropped, but damn, he was so open. Go back to it.
What you talking? Yeah. You're right. And you know what? That was Jake Smith's fault because he's fighting the cornerback with one
arm,
hand, and then he's trying to go. And Brandon Eagles did the same thing. With his
ball hit him in the face,
dude. No, when the ball is there, you got to quit fighting and go up with 2 hands.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, go back to it.
I agree.
And
they don't have to go more deep balls, but I agree that deep slot that was a nice one.
Well, and while we're on the topic in the sacks, when you look at it, because it was the first time that you see Sam really just in standard down situations get so impacted. He was 10 for 18, but had 6 sacks and passing downs, only 3 of them. And you could see at times because he had been so protected.
And real quick, just reiterate, that's standard down situations. That's not
standard
passing downs.
So not on passing downs. Passing downs, he was 16 of 20. That's like 3rd and longs and stuff like that. 3 sacks, but he was 10 of 18 for only 82 yards and was sacked 6 times. So you're talking about 6 sacks and then getting only 2.3 yards per attempt. And when you look at Sam overall, he's had such great pocket presence because he's used to there being a pocket and there being time. True. And the thing is it seemed as if at first, the first few sacks, there was a couple where it was just sort of surprised him that, oh my God, the rush was here and took him down, like the great play by Gallimore, a few. But then you could tell it almost got into the conscience of him or not into the conscience of the staff because you still had some long developing routes and things where Sam was trusting his linemen to give him a little bit of time. And in those situations, it was the norm was no longer the norm. He was getting impacted and you didn't adjust. And I was just thinking, like,
your line's not holding up. All right, so what do? All right, we got to emphasize a quick game. All right, how do we do that? Okay,
exactly.
Our receivers got to get open quickly. How do we do that? You know what? Let's put them in a bunch. And then we'll do starburst routes. And then somebody's going to clear open really quickly. And then once Oklahoma adjusts to that, then we can go deep off the starburst route. I mean, I didn't see any of that. They didn't.
Very confined in our positions.
Move the pocket. If the pocket is collapsing quickly, let's move the pocket. Let's get him outside the pocket. Let's get him.
Something Lincoln Riley does with every quarterback.
It's just so frustrating that they never tried to do anything. They never helped out the players. The players, I agree. Trust me, and I'm speaking as a guy who wasn't ready to play in 2000, and I got my butt whipped at Texas OU. So I'm not judging anybody.
Right.
But the players weren't ready to play. We know that, right? The drop passes, right? Colin Johnson with the drop. You know what I mean? Like they weren't ready. Keontae Ingram
early on.
You
can point at a mistake by most.
Yeah, the O-line. Some of your captains early on, Shaq, they weren't ready. All right, let's just throw that out there.
Right.
And
the captain ejected.
Right, yeah. So, and your offensive line wasn't holding up. So, I didn't understand why the coaches didn't make some necessary adjustment. The only innovation I saw was putting Devin Duvernay in the backfield in that 21 personnel
we've
look.
Seen that before.
I know.
But at least they went to it. But that's a good point.
I know. That was the only thing I saw them try to do. I was like, well, okay.
What's frustrating me is we've seen Tom Herman in big games at Texas and big games at Houston. We've seen him have something like, oh, wow, I haven't seen that before. Or, okay, that's why they ran inside zone the whole game because they were setting that up to do this.
Agreed.
We didn't see that.
No.
And look, this is I'll go back to this. Lincoln Riley's often talked about the 2015 game against Texas where like Puna Ford and Hassan Ridgeway basically ate Oklahoma's offensive line alive, and Malik Jefferson was probably the best game Malik Jefferson played in his time at Texas. And Texas just dominated Oklahoma in a football game.
Yeah.
Kind of like this game, but in the other way, like, yeah, it was a 24-17 game, but it felt like 24-3 because Texas was just that dominant the whole game. Yeah. And Lincoln Riley's often talked about that game for him being like, you know what, I got to change the way I'm doing stuff. I got to get more innovative. I got to make use of my running backs. And we saw Lincoln Riley change. And we've seen Nick Saban say, you know what, instead of worrying about trying to stop these spread offenses, why not just start running the spread myself?
Yeah.
Why not just do that? And we've seen Ed Orgeron say, full disclosure, I don't like this offense, but I'd rather keep my job, so I'm going to hire Joe Brady to run this offense.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those games, Rod, and Tom Herman's figuring out, like, yeah, you didn't get any questions about Kansas in the Monday press conference. Nobody cares. Because you look that bad against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And this fan base, to get back to your point originally, this fan base, not that they'll tolerate losses to Oklahoma, but that's the one, if you lose a game, that's the one that's like, okay, yeah.
I understand it.
Because Oklahoma at this point has won 8 of the last 11 in this series.
Yeah.
They've had your number. And since 1971, Oklahoma's like, I think, 27-20-3 in this series. So it's been a long time where Oklahoma's been really good against Texas.
Yeah.
But the one thing this fan base won't tolerate is being embarrassed by Oklahoma.
By anybody.
Right.
By any pro, yeah.
Especially Oklahoma.
Especially Oklahoma.
Because that's your one rivalry game now. You don't even have A&M at the end of the year anymore.
I don't think they were embarrassed.
Yeah, and they weren't embarrassed this week.
They weren't embarrassed.
I would disagree
to
an extent.
They didn't play well, but I wouldn't say that was embarrassing.
No, I don't think they were embarrassed.
They were only, it was the margin of error, and you had a lot. They almost beat a top 5 team. It's just like LSU.
Played 2000. I was embarrassed. So you can't put embarrassed in a 7-point loss with a
Rod, but you give up
40-something.
Rod, but you give up 9 sacks. You should feel some shame after
that.
It is.
Well, and that's the most. I think that's just them not playing well. That's a combination of the coaches not giving them a schematic advantage at all, by the way.
Right.
And as a result of them not being ready to play. But they still didn't get blown out, either because Oklahoma didn't take advantage of it or because there were instances, just plays here and there where they kept themselves in the game.
Yeah,
in 2000, I can't remember a damn play we made. We didn't make a play. It was quicksand, dude. It was a total.
Because it was 35-0 like that.
Exactly, dude.
The TV went out. It was so ugly.
Everybody failed miserably, except for like Casey Hampton.
Okay, So we can
I think I don't know if it's embarrassing.
Instead of nitpicking about adjectives, can we just get to this? This is the point I'm making.
It was a failure.
This is a game where Tom Herman's got to decide, you know what I'm doing is fine, but against Oklahoma, I need to be better.
Yep.
In big games, I need to have more than just trusting my guys to go make plays. To your point, what we've been saying this whole time, Tom Herman has to realize I didn't put my guys offensively in good enough positions to make plays. I have to change things going forward to better prepare them for big games.
And Tom
this is one of those moments, right? He said it. He said it in a press conference. He said it on Monday. But saying it on Monday and actually making the change are two different things.
Now, I agree with you on that. We've been talking about it for a while, and not that the 11 personnel bothers me, but you need to be considering the weapons you have, and considering you're a Greg Davis disciple, you do need to look at those weapons and go, all right, you know what? To put my best 11 guys on the field, I may need to tweak some things, and I may need to dive into some different personnel packages. I'm with you. The 20, if you love Keontae Ingram so much that you're not even willing to admit that Rashawn Johnson should be the starting running back.
Because it's not a debate anymore.
It's not a debate anymore. You're the only one that is not actually on Rashawn Johnson should be the starting running back.
He just knows you might need two running backs at some point, so he doesn't want to jump off slowly.
No, and you're going to need them both, but you say it's a meritocracy. You keep talking about how everybody's got to earn everything, and it's he's earned it, coach. I mean, he's earned it. If you're going to stick with that philosophy and that ideology, then you got to show everybody that. And I think, that's part of him being stubborn. He just doesn't want the media to be right. Well, that's something about, he's still going to, he might end up starting Rashawn anyway. And who knows, he may not do it because of Keontae Ingram's fragile state, whatever. But one thing is, he does not want the media to be right about Rojo and the fans to be right about Rojo. It's one thing coaches don't like. They don't like for the fans and the media to be right. Then they got to turn around and the tail wags the dog.
And it also would mean that our team isn't as good, because if you have just one running back instead of two, then that's a detriment.
No. He needs both.
But I think while we're on the offense, I want to just point out one thing, like the confinement. Like I really like the way that we've seen this offense sort of evolved to a place where they have defined roles, and you see that they actually can be used well in those roles. But also, I think it's almost been confining as to sort of a preconceived idea of what you want your offense to be. And right now, as we're talking about this,
it's made it predictable.
It's
made it predictable.
It's confined it, and then now you have these defined, and then also that you aren't really willing to change, which would be anti-Herman if you look at it philosophically from a football player, and the idea of not wanting to go 20 or to 10 or to go and make these little changes, or like to take a guy out of his comfort zone in this role. It does make it to where like just go and change up and have a couple of those bunch routes, like you say. I know it isn't conventional what you do, but the confinement within the framework of this offense can be something that might be holding it back at times.
And you know what? You got to walk the fine line. I think, great coaches do break tendencies at the right time. I've always said that. We talked about the Super Bowl last year. Patriots played more deep man defense than anybody else in the NFL, but in that game, they played 50-60% zone in that game. So they just broke tendency, and the Rams never really could, they couldn't grasp the game plan.
They'd only seen it like 10% of the time all season.
Exactly. Then the 22 personnel, right? They run empty formation out of 22 personnel. It only happened 11 times the entire season. Right. But the Patriots, the only way they were able to score a touchdown in that game, and they were able to try to beat Wade Phillips in that defensive chess match. I don't see Tom Herman breaking tendency. We keep anticipating it.
We keep
talking about it's going to be this. Maybe it's going to be that. Ooh, we're going to see this. And we've seen Duvernay.
That's what we did on last week's show. At every radio bit I did last week was guessing on what the counterpunch was going to be.
And then my main fear was that Lincoln Riley was going to look at our offense and just be like, all right, we'll stop that, and everything comes off the X.
And you're right. Lincoln Riley probably was a big part of breaking down that game plan and going, man. This is all
eliminate Duvernay, and then everything else is going to fall apart around it.
And we've broken down the tendencies, right? That Duvernay, 40% of all of his targets are behind the line of scrimmage, 60% within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. They know that. They're going, well, hell, I know he's got world-class speed, but he ain't using it to go downfield. So
we aren't spreading the field with it.
Let's just flat foot read everything, and let's just pounce every damn time. He doesn't run double moves out of the slot. Imagine a double move out of the slot.
Yeah.
Imagine either a slant and go or anything. Everybody would jump it on Duvernay because he never runs a deep route. So you go, he's jumping, and then you can go deep. I never see them break tendency, anything like that.
The bigger thing for me, Rod, there's two things. One, on the pass protection issue. We talk about it all the time. What are the two ways you can combat pressure? Either keep more guys in the block and max protect, which I didn't really see them do all that much. Or get more guys out in a route and get the ball out quicker.
LSU.
Help your quarterback out.
LSU.
And that goes back to the staff. You didn't do enough to help your guys out.
You did.
And that's the frustration for me watching this offense. I know Tom Herman's better than what that game plan was.
Of course he is.
I know he's better.
Yeah.
And my frustration comes from the standpoint that I still believe in this coaching staff. But getting back to what I talked about Matt earlier, Tom Herman can take the blame and say it's my fault. Okay, that's fine. You want to take the blame? Great. Good for you for doing that.
Yeah.
Now go make the change.
Agreed. Go make the necessary change. So when you see him again, so hopefully you'll see him
because I guarantee you, however many people are in the house for that Kansas game, if they see the same game plan where you're basically 11 personnel 90% of the time and you're still throwing, it's a lot of perimeter screens. Yeah, that stuff works, and maybe it'll work against Kansas, but your focus right now for Tom Herman and his team should be everything you do. And this is, people talk about this, Texas back. I think they're back to this point, Rod. This goes back to your days. You talked about that offseason going into the 2001 season. Mm-hmm. Every rep, every bench press rep, every sprint, every part of spring ball. It was always about, is what we did today good enough to beat Oklahoma?
Agreed.
That's where this program's mindset needs to be now. Texas has an Oklahoma problem. While everybody, listen to this, while you've been slapping fighting with Aggies over who's better or not, all Oklahoma's been doing is winning the damn Big 12.
That's it. Going to college football
cranking out Heisman winners. Yeah.
Number 1 overall draft
back to back.
In terms of
not one, not two.
And excuse my language if I sound coarse, but in terms of their tradition, Oklahoma's leaving your ass in the dust.
No, Oklahoma's a better football program than Texas.
So if Tom Herman
sadly
wants to ascend to the upper echelon of coaches, not just in the country but in the history of this program, fix the Oklahoma problem. And that's got to be your mindset every day. What we did today good enough to beat Oklahoma. Because honestly, if it's good enough to beat Oklahoma, it's good enough to beat anybody else in the league.
That should,
If it's good enough to beat Oklahoma, it's good enough to beat Baylor or Iowa State or anybody that's left on the schedule.
But to your point, though, if he doesn't fix the problem of, being a little bit predictable now and maybe roles being too defined and not breaking tendency enough, not being innovative enough, and now we know that the offensive line is susceptible, right, to stunts and twists and all those things that now the exploitable areas within your offense and your blueprint, if you don't fix those, then TCU's got Gary Patterson, who's one of the best defensive minds in football. John Heacock at Iowa State, also one of the best defensive minds in college football. They'll expose you.
And Matt Rule's seen you enough over the years.
Matt Rule's one of the best football minds, period, at any level, in my opinion. Yeah. So I'm saying there are enough really good coaches left on the schedule that will expose you. Yeah. I truly believe that's the case.
I agree.
So
and real quick before we get to defense, I just want to talk about Sam Ehlinger. Matt and I were talking about Sam before Rod, you got in here. Do you know the last 2 9-sack games this program's surrendered?
I remember the Dama Kung Su now.
That was the one I said.
Don't Longhorn ever forget that.
I couldn't think of the other one. My one was like
Colt McCoy around like a rag doll.
That was so sad.
It was so traumatizing for Longhorn.
Craig Way was afraid for Colt McCoy.
Right?
Craig Way's behind Rod right now. I just pointed at him. You could hear it in his voice that he felt like really afraid for his health.
Because Colt McCoy
was our hero, and he was just
Colt McCoy lost the Heisman Trophy, and Ndamukong Suh nearly won it in the same night.
It was. I would be to laugh because it's not funny, but man,
you can laugh because Texas won the game and ended up winning the Big 12.
Colt's last 2 games at Texas are so sad. Thinking of that, and then his head just getting hit a drive later. Man, he had that, and then the first drive.
I just never have seen a defensive player have such a dominant performance. I mean, he was
throwing grown men around like rag dolls.
They were like 3 guys.
I felt Chris Hall had no chance. Chris Hall's a nice man.
I felt bad for that. Exactly.
Chris Hall was an All-American that year. It's not like he was a scrub.
No, he was a grown man.
But he was a nice man.
No, man, the Ndamukong Suh.
But you know the other game? It's another game Texas fans have like what is it, Stockholm syndrome? Like they just put it out of their mind or whatever.
I remember
Travis
that. But that was different. That was a one-man.
But do you know the
one-man wrecking crew?
The other 9-sack game
last year, crazy.
The other 9-sack game?
Oh, I don't know if I know.
How about the 91 Cotton Bowl against Miami?
They punked Texas.
Yeah.
That's the one Johnny Walker always talks about. Is that the one Johnny?
Yeah, that's the one Johnny said they knew they lost it before kickoff when Miami ran right through them coming out of the tunnel.
I think he said some guys might have cried.
And oddly, Ed Orgeron was the D-line coach of that team.
He said they came over to the bench and they told him, "You were about to knock one of your out.
Yep.
And then they literally
And they knocked
on
Chris
that next
Samuels out
play,
on the opening
they
kickoff.
knocked him
Yep.
out. They like
It's
they,
on
they,
the U. When you watch the U,
Yeah.
they tell the
and
whole story.
They'll knock him out, and they actually knocked him out. I was like, wow. He's like, no,
Tolbert
man.
Bain, I think, was one.
Johnny Walker, we gotta get him on the teller. He says he had never seen anything like it.
Yeah. And that Miami,
he had never seen fear like that in some of his teammates.
that Miami defensive front, he had Russell Maryland, who was the freaking #1 pick in the draft that spring.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 9-sack games. And why do those games like that? I went back and looked at Nebraska in 2009. You realize they beat Oklahoma that year.
It was the #1 defense in the country.
You realize they beat Oklahoma that year 10-3 with 180 yards of total offense.
I think it was the #1 defense in the country.
Nebraska won a football game in the Big 12 with 180 yards of total offense.
And they almost beat us.
Because your defense was that good.
Hell yeah, man. That defense was nasty. I think
you had Prince Mukamara on the back end.
I want to say it was 5 or 6 NFL players on that
Jared Crick, Was Levante David on that defense?
Yeah, I believe Levante was on there. Yeah, that was nasty, though.
NFL players at every level.
Yeah.
But that 91 Cotton Bowl got out of hand, and you look at the turnovers in the game, and Colt had turnovers in the Big 12 championship game. And people might want to knock Sam Ehlinger, and I know we just went through the numbers. They weren't good. If it wasn't for Sam Ehlinger, you probably lose this game like 41-10.
Yeah.
Him and Rashawn, him and Rojo.
Because Sam Ehlinger didn't turn the ball over. And I know people are like, well, what's wrong with Sam? Has he got a shoulder injury? He's got a rib injury? No. He's reacting how any quarterback would react if he got sacked 9 times and had pressure in his face all day.
We've seen Tom Brady turn
ran 14 times.
from Superman into Clark Kent because of pressure. So, that's
exactly what Matt and I said. Like, look, I've seen Joe Montana get rattled by pressure in his face. I've seen Tom Brady lose Super Bowls with pressure in his face.
Because one was under pressure and one wasn't under pressure.
Yeah, I think it's hard to judge his performance in the game because of the amount of pressure.
Yeah.
You talk about historic amount of pressure he was put under. But, you waited for that moment where Sam and I think he tried his best to put the team on his back, even with the drops by the receivers.
There were 3.
And he had some of the balls, man, were just
great balls.
They were great balls.
Perfect.
I mean, it really could have changed the whole dynamic of the game. The Brennan Eagles one was a beautiful ball. The Jake Smith one was around the money. Colin Johnson. I mean, there were so many that were like, you never know what it could do for the confidence of him and the players. And
and
I
to
think
the point
Sam
about
did as much as he could, man.
Especially on some of those, sacks that he's almost evading.
Yeah, he did as much as he
and
we talked about the game plan being a bad game plan. Opening script was terrible. I just don't think anybody around him helped him out. So to ask him, and I was still waiting on him to do the Tim Tebow thing, or just the VY thing, and put the team on his back and make some miraculous play. It was asking a lot, considering how that would have been demeaning and belittling the performance of Oklahoma. Oklahoma played real good to the point where not even Sam could become a Superman in that moment.
I think you put it best.
That was Jeff,
no,
but it was the onside kick. It's twice that we've seen that even though Texas played bad, you had a chance to get the ball and a chance to win for Sam in both those games. I haven't seen an onside kick recovered. There hasn't been one in the NFL all season, and it nearly has happened twice with Texas.
But dadgum, man, Cameron Dicker's got that thing down.
Yeah, it's amazing seeing what he's doing with it. But we haven't got either of them, but it's still been quite impressive.
Oh, he's giving you a chance to get both,
though. Dicker did his thing.
Yep, and then on Sam, though, rushing, when you take out the sacks yards, it's Sam Ehlinger, 14 rushes for 44 yards, but you look at the 9 sacks, and it makes you have negative 23 for negative 9 yards.
Sam as a rusher was irrelevant. Also, it made him irrelevant too because of all the sacks and all the hidden yardage.
To your point, Rod, it's hard to judge the performance. You almost have to give it an incomplete because
I don't know.
I
don't know what he would have done if somebody would have caught 1 or 2 of those 5 drops. Or
again, Matt and I were talking about this earlier. The one Colin Johnson drop. Sam saves that drive because he scrambles for like 11 yards on 3rd and 9.
It was.
And gives you
I remember that.
Downs.
Oh, yeah. Deep in the territory. By the way, I think Texas started, their average starting field position is like at their 19 throughout the game. And I think in the first 3 quarters, it was like at their 16 or something. They improved a little bit on it.
18.8, and then OU started every drive at the average 37.3.
They all basically started close to midfield.
You're talking about more than, like, you're doubling. We're at 18 and a half. Double that, it's 37.6. They're at 37.
And I think if Tom Herman's really mad about anything after this game, I know there's a lot of stuff on his list to check off.
Of
but
course.
As kind of an Urban Meyer disciple, and I know Joe Klatt talked about it in the broadcast, but I've heard Tom Herman give clinics where he's talking about the things he learned from Urban Meyer. And damn near the top of the list is you have to win field position. Like that is the most.
Urban
that is
beat
the
that home
surefire
at
way.
halftime.
Like
he did.
Yeah,
and the post game he talked about.
Yeah,
it.
like and so
Talks
field
about,
position,
like,
field position,
yeah.
field position. I know that's near
Long
Tom
ball
Herman's
Dixie.
list, and you. Well, it's like I said earlier.
Well, Bill Snyder was big on that too.
Whatever advantage Bluchevsky and Dicker give you, your return teams shot themselves in the foot and just blew that all to hell.
Devin Duvernay, and it's interesting the captains, Devin Duvernay, making those types of decisions. And we've seen now bad decisions in a few games, whether it be on punt return or kickoff return by some of the captains. So obviously, Tom Herman, and I'm not speaking what I know. I'm just saying as an observer, they're not spending enough time at practice on special teams. It's just that simple.
Or the results aren't beating them home.
Well,
something's amiss.
Matt, when we had our 3 punch block versus North Carolina State, Mac Brown put in like 3 more in periods of special teams just to make sure they
can't lose a game because of one thing,
dude. So whatever it is, Tom, you got to get that together, man.
And Rod, you guys had talent, but that's why for a decade
after
Texas
that,
was one of the best kicking games in the country.
Yeah, you got to correct that.
Well, in fall camp, Mac would have like a kick scrimmage, like you have a scrimmage like on a random like Tuesday afternoon, or it's an hour of nothing but special teams.
No, the culture of special teams changed like almost overnight at Texas. And I remember when Coach Akina came in, added a new element because Coach Akina was like, "We're putting the best athletes on special teams. We got the passing. I want the best."
I remember when
he would like go recruit wide receivers, and basically we would just, he would literally the best athletes on the team would play special team. They started to build that culture. So, I know Tom Herman's got his own blueprint for it, but you got to do something.
I remember,
special times is not an advantage.
I remember one of my first years on the beat, and I had Rod B. I had to ask you about this. Like, one of my sources gave me a practice schedule, and I see, like, there's, like, 2 days during camp where it's, like, afternoon kick scrimmage. I'm like, man, kick scrimmage.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, they really go out there for, like, 90 minutes, and they run through every single kicking game unit.
Everything. Everybody knows exactly what to do.
Kickoff return, punt return,
boom.
PAT.
You know what situation you should be doing this, when you shouldn't touch the ball, when you should go get the ball. What are the he's go over rules.
Your field goal block, your missed field goal return.
We literally go over rules of special teams. Like, no. This is the rule. This is what works. Or you can go out of bounds here, but you can't go out of bounds. And I'm like, oh, okay. And you would learn. And you'd be surprised how many coaches never actually go over the rules of special teams and what you can do and what you can't do. Like even the Devin Duvernay, the drop, right? The fair catch, he tries to catch, it drops, and then he realizes after he returns, it's like, oh no, I can't do that. Like, no, you can't do that.
Simple rule.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the guy, they just maybe they don't know, or maybe they're just having brain
but
farts,
sometimes
whatever.
you have to be reminded of
You got
them.
to be reminded
Like
of it.
NFL
So maybe you need to have
players
somebody
will
on the
still forget that
sideline.
There's no overtime number 2.
Who reminds these guys situationally, hey, situation, hey, blah, 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 blah. You know what?
Exactly.
Hey, it's like, don't go after this punt. We're gonna let this punt go. Go out there and fake him out, but don't touch this punt, whatever.
That's why you have all those notes.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You have to have those reminders. It's not as if you
because they're failing at that right now. You got captains failing at it.
It's only human to forget a thing from time to time, but that's why the reminder there. That's the coaching aspect of it.
Yeah, and that's it goes back to just preparedness and
exactly. That's exactly right.
I just expect more from Tom Herman.
Like you said initially, they were ill-prepared.
Tom Herman and this staff are better than this because I've seen them be better than they were on Saturday, and then they've been at times this year. But we've hammered the offense enough. We talked about special teams. Rod, let's talk about the defense. Now that's almost easier to talk about because the problems are just smack you right in the face.
I'm getting my notes.
Lost a few more players.
Let's start with the injuries.
We'll start with the injuries because
that'll lead us into everything else.
Jeffrey McCulloch, who'd been taken out of the lineup anyway, except for certain situations, and I don't mean to demean him. He's a tremendous young man. And I didn't think he's been terrible this year.
But Juwan Mitchell was getting
dislocated shoulder. He's gonna be out for a few weeks. Juwan Mitchell's got an elbow. Sounds like he's gonna play against Kansas, but probably won't practice much, if at all, this week. Yeah. You've got Chris Brown, fractured forearm. He's out for probably 6 weeks. So probably maybe the Big 12 championship game if you get there.
The rest of this regular season, definitely, yeah.
That's on top of Caden Stern still being out, on top of still Josh Thompson being out, and Jalen Green still being out.
Yep.
Man, you got a mash unit on the back end right now, Rod B. And I guess we'll start with missed tackles.
Yeah.
I actually have an article up on the site that anybody that's seen it talking about the missed tackles and players talking about missed tackles. Brendan Jones saying they need to take better advantage of Tuesdays in their full padded practice. And Tom Herman even said in the press conference on Monday, they have been slacking on the physicality a little bit because they've been so beat up.
I know. I was gonna say, what are you gonna do? You can't be physical in practice.
It's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
At that point. And then Joseph Osai said, well, maybe, he himself and everybody else maybe need to work on some tackling drills. I don't know. Rod, I think there's some stuff that's compounding the issues. I think number one, you do have the injury, so you don't like Caden Stearns is probably your best tackler on the back end. Yeah. You don't have him right now. And Josh Thompson, is he one of your best 11? I think that's debatable. He's in that conversation, but at least he's a guy that you can trust to be in the right place.
He's a significant contributor, as my man Matt would put there.
There you go.
Going back to our bust rate statistics.
Brandon Jones, good tackle.
So I think the injuries are definitely compounding some things.
No question about it.
But their technique in open field tackling is not good. And we've seen Todd Orlando defenses be really good open field tackling defenses.
Complimented that. I remember as early as 2017, we were talking about how
the USC game, like they were in the USC game in large part because of open field tackling.
Yeah.
With Holton Hill and Deshaun Elliott.
I want to say in the Texas-Georgia game, I counted like 7 missed tackles. I'll go back and track it.
Hell, the Iowa State game last year was one of those.
It was 8. It was just 8 in the Iowa State game. I remember that one.
This year was a bit of a surprise once we started to see some. Like, I know that we were at least expecting the team to be one of the strengths is just being, the back end tackle. And exactly.
Because you got, they do. Yeah, but as you pointed out, the injuries. You've lost starters for stretches. You've lost B.J. Foster for a stretch. You lost Caden Stearns for a stretch. Jalen Green for a stretch.
Now put inexperience in space.
Yeah, Josh Thompson, now Chris Brown. And that's 4 to 5 starters and significant contributors in the secondary alone that you've lost for stretches. And now the linebackers, you're going to lose Jeffrey McCulloch for a stretch. The truth is, injuries might be the biggest reason why we've seen the tackling deteriorate in the back end. Because the secondary is where it's been the most.
But
glaring.
I'll say this too, Rod. You can have personnel deficiencies and you can have experience deficiencies. And Texas certainly at this point has both of those.
Yeah.
But everybody says this is my favorite word on the podcast, but you can also have game plans like we talked about on offense where guys aren't being put in the best positions to succeed, and that can compound your problem.
Very true. I totally agree. Yeah, when you go up against the best dual threat quarterback in the country and you don't have a spy.
That's absurd.
At all.
That's absurd.
We've talked about you can't spy the... Yeah. You can't spy the whole game because a guy like
IQ.
Yeah, that's you can't. Yeah, you can't do it every game. But I didn't see
or every down. But I didn't see it at all.
I think I maybe one, and I think maybe Juwan Mitchell got caught up in some trash.
Maybe by the third or fourth quarter, but they didn't do it at all.
You would have thought that would have been the first thing you do. Is just everybody understands that Jalen Hurts as a runner is at his most dangerous when he's running. He's outside the pocket. So you would think initially be like, no. We want even B.J. Foster when he was talking trash, and we'll get into the trash talk too. He said they're going to have to beat us throwing the ball. I assume that meant Jalen Hurts was going to be in the pocket with a spy on him, and then you're going to force him either to extend the play or basically stay in the pocket to beat you. And no, on some third and longs, they would just it was like part.
Jalen Hurts
like the Red Sea, and he would just go, okay.
He saw
I'll take the first down.
Exactly. The entire time he's sitting there and just assessing the defense. And if he sees any void, he's just going to take it immediately. And he identified and just took it, and Texas defense was giving it to him constantly.
Because the whole point was take away his first read, make him go through progressions in the pocket, what he's not good at doing, which is what they did in the red zone very well, and forced him to making bad decisions. And yet you would let him look at his first read, look at his second and go, and then let him just have free space to run. I don't get it. That didn't make sense.
Well, and familiar look. They had vertical routes and he had plenty of space.
We all, whether it's Rod B, you as a player, and even you were still following this program when you were in the league, and Matt and you and I as fans at the time, and me being in the media watching it, we all got real familiar during Vince Young's time here with how do you defend a dual threat quarterback? Like, what do you take away?
Yeah,
how do you?
And Tom Herman said one of the things they wanted to do, they wanted to play man to take away the pop passes and some of the double moves.
Understand.
But how often did we see from Vince Young playing man is probably the worst thing you can do when you're facing a dual threat quarterback. You got to do it with
a spy because everybody's back is turned to the quarterback.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, once I'm in man, I can't have two eyes. I can't have my eyes in two places at once.
So they just play man coverage straight up, right? With no spy.
Then the quarterback needs a man too.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. If
you didn't do that.
That's cool. But give the quarterback a man, especially as a dual threat. So I'm with you. I understood the whole thing about man, but I'm mad at Tom Herman for not going, well, you need to put a man on Jalen Hurts. Who's going to be our man on Jalen Hurts then?
I don't want to boil it down to this rudimentary level, but it's almost like if you look at the offensive staff and the defensive staff, it's almost like the offensive staff didn't think enough about what they needed to do, And the defensive staff way overthought things. Like, we need to take away this and this. No. First off, take away the running quarterback that gained 131 yards on you. Like, take away what he does well. That's why I love Todd Orlando's game plan against Oklahoma State, which, by the way, for the Oklahoma State game, you still had Jalen Green and Caden Stearns and Josh Thompson and all these other guys. But I digress. But Todd Orlando decided in that Oklahoma State game, what did he decide? Tylan Wallace is not going to beat us. We're going to take away Tylan Wallace. And if Chuba Hubbard's going to run for a lot of yards, he's going to need 40 carries to get it because we're going to be aggressive against the run. We're going to take away the run. So basically, what are we going to leave it with? If Spencer Sanders can beat us throwing the ball in verticals, great. We got to take away something. It's like in this game, I don't know what they were trying to take away.
They were trying to take away the people without the ball, preventing the guys from getting the ball without totally negating the guy with the ball the whole time, because that's the default of a dual threat quarterback. He already has it. He's a weapon.
I think initially, yeah, exactly. And we know Todd Orlando, his modus operandi initially, he wants to take away the run. And when he can't take away the run, he wants to take away the run, number one, and make you one-dimensional. That's just the top priority. Number two, once he makes you one-dimensional, then he wants to pressure the quarterback. And then number three, force turnovers. When he can't stop the run, which he did not do successfully versus Oklahoma, his blueprint disintegrates.
The most ever given up by a Todd Orlando defense.
Yeah, it disintegrates. And I've seen this happen with him before. Once he can't do that, then he has really no counter. His counter usually is, I'll wait till I get in the red zone. I'll bend but don't break. Just get in the red zone. And he does. He plays actually really good red zone deep because it makes sense.
This game
against Lincoln Riley, a man who's trying to create space with all of these different concepts with the jet sweep motions and the bunch formations and everything. He's creating space where there is no space. When the space shrinks considerably, that's when it's easier to defend a Lincoln Riley offense.
You can't run the defenders.
You can't run.
The box,
I don't have to defend the deep ball and all that kind of stuff.
Can just run underneath it.
For Todd Orlando, I think what really killed him in the game, honestly, is number one. I think his game plan was flawed because, dude, just have a spy. And like you said, he tried to take away like the deep ball and try to take away all the deep explosive plays.
All the things that could happen with the ball.
Yes, instead of taking away the run. That's what they do best. He would have been better just selling out to stop the run and then just saying, you know what, I'll take my chance with my corners, because the truth is, Anthony Cook might have had the best game on defense of any defender.
And I didn't think Deshaun Jameson was terrible.
He wasn't. He was good.
The one area of the defense we were worried about, they actually played, considering circumstances, pretty well.
So I was like, I think he should just sold out to stop the run and said, "Screw it, you know what? Beat me. Go beat my young corners."
If CeeDee Lamb's gonna beat you anyway, make him beat you at least where your corners have a chance to go make a play.
What's your best cover man anyway? You know what I mean? Now
it would have worked against any conventional offense from 30 years ago, but you're about 3 decades too late.
So I agree with your initial assessment. It was always overthinking. It's like, no, dude, you stop the run. That's what you do all the time. And then once you stop the run and make them one-dimensional, you did it against Georgia last year. I'm sure, I know you can do it against them too. I mean, you can do it. I know you can do it. And he didn't do that. And then the whole damn thing disintegrated. And then, let's be honest, I don't know if any game plan works when you miss 21 tackles. And I was being conservative when I counted the number. I'll give you the number really quickly because I said down and I counted
Lamb and Hurts alone
you can,
had like
Rod, you don't have to break.
Pro Football Focus said, and Joe, my man Jeff told me this the other night, CeeDee Lamb, I believe, had 7 Jalen Hurts had 6.
Rod, you don't have to go into it, but I broke it down on the website. Like, you texted me like what you consider a missed tackle, and we don't have time to get into it here, but you can go read my missed tackles article on the website because I broke down how Rod B tracks missed tackles.
Contact.
And some because some of them didn't make contact
or run them out of bounds, like CD along the,
because some of them
like BJ Foster along the sideline.
The CeeDee Lamb picture that everybody's seen with 5 defenders around him. I think it's Brandon Jones, Joseph Asai, BJ Foster, Chris Brown, and Deshaun Jameson, I think, is there too.
Secondary. All of them.
I only counted that as 3 missed tackles because 2 of the guys actually tackled him, and BJ Foster let him do a crab tree to the sideline. He let him literally run around him somehow, even when his
pull the
hips.
Crab tree. That's
I was like, how did he get? So that was I got 3 missed tackles. I didn't count 5. I only counted 3 because you have to me, you basically got to either trying to tackle the guy, make an effort, or you got to basically, the guy has to run right by you without you engaged with a blocker. Right. And on the other one, where CeeDee Lamb scores, 2 guys, I believe, actually contact him.
Brandon Jones and Chris Brown.
Yeah, and then Deshaun Jameson, I don't know, he just takes a bad angle. So that was 2 missed tackles. So it's really, I was very conservative in the way I counted them, but that's just kind of where I start in terms of missed tackles. Yeah, and then that's a very subjective stat, by the way, just so you know.
There's some and I don't want to disparage players, right?
No.
I don't get into that, but I do think we talk about on offense, putting your guys in the best position to succeed. I'm sorry, in the Big 12, you can have Deli Adeoye on the field, or you can have Jawan Mitchell on the field. Right, in this league against some of these offenses, you can't play both those guys at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Like, I would like to see, like, Joseph Osai has clearly shown he's your best linebacker.
Yeah.
And maybe he's too valuable to where you can't put him in one spot the whole game. This is like we talked about with Caden Stearns last year. Okay, so move him around.
Yeah, you need to move. You
Do
should be
different
moving
things
him
with
around. Yeah, he should be on the line. Yeah, I don't know why.
Put him inside for a series.
You're letting Lick and Rowley dictate where your best player goes.
Yeah. And
that should never be the case. You never let Lick and Rowley dictate that Joseph Osai is going to be dropping back in coverage. He's like,
we used to
exactly
talk about,
where I want Joseph Osai.
That's the opposite of how Todd Orlando
exactly. He
functions.
weaponizes his defense, so then they become offensive and attack the offense. Right now, like you just said, it was at the point that you had Lincoln Riley dictating the terms and making your defense defensive.
There was one, like, the two things that stood out to me in terms of three things that stood out to me in terms of putting your guys in bad positions. I saw one time Deli Adeoye trying to get the edge on Kennedy Brooks, trying to stop him around the end. I'm like, that ain't going to work. Because, it worked when you had Gary Johnson there.
Exactly.
Deli Adeoye's not Gary. It goes back to, like, McCade Brewer, Andrew Beck thing. Deli Adeoye's not Gary Johnson. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. But the defense
put him in a position where he can be successful. It's not putting him in a position to be successful.
It needs to be calibrated appropriately. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There was one series where I saw BJ Foster ends up in a single high look and he's 30 yards off the ball.
I saw that.
Why should BJ Foster ever be playing 30 yards off the ball?
Your best blitzer, arguably, and he's playing 30 yards off the ball.
If you want to flip him and Brandon Jones and put BJ Foster up in the box and Brandon Jones deep, that's fun, actually. Probably in that game where you need I'd rather have my guy who's playing Oklahoma for the 5th time, seeing Lincoln Riley's offense for the 4th time or whatever it is. I'd rather have that guy playing in the middle of the field where he can communicate with people.
Yeah.
But I digress on that end. And then the other one was, there was one time, and I realize certain things are going to happen in coverage, but there's one time where more often than not, I see Chris Brown like covering guys one-on-one, and I see him chasing Charleston Rambo. I'm like, any defensive game plan where you ever have Chris Brown chasing Charleston Rambo, it's a bad call.
That guy should be in the box.
Get rid of it. It's like those times where I saw, like, I think the West Virginia game in 2012 where against Geno Smith, like, Manny Diaz has Alex Okafor dropping like 10 yards down the hash. I'm like, any call you have that calls for Alex Okafor to drop 10 yards down the hash, scrap it. It's a bad call. Get rid of it. I don't care how good you think it is. Get rid of it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And that's why a lot of people are saying
mismatches, scheming that.
Well, that's kind of what we're saying up to Tom Herman. We're not going to get back to that, but Tom Herman, we get their linebacker to chasing Jake Smith somehow.
Yes, you know that's what you want. That's the goal.
That's the goal, right? Yes. Football is chess with grown men.
And when you have Duvernay and Jake
that's
Smith.
why a lot of people were out of position, is because I think maybe they're not being weaponized properly within the defense too. And Todd Orlando's not doing a good job of because of the injuries, of being able to morph this defense and change this defense into something that can maximize the different abilities. He's basically being too confined to, this is the way I did in 2017. Usually he's not that kind of guy.
Right.
But I think it's a lot of injuries though, man. So he's so deep, and trying
the
to
offense needed
evaluate
to carry
those guys.
This game and it wasn't able to.
Here's my my tackle on missed my missed tackle stat. I conservatively counted 21 missed tackles for Texas versus OU. As a result of those missed tackles, 195 additional yards, 7 additional first downs, 2 additional touchdowns. Texas now, by the way, and they went into that game leading all of college football in missed tackles. I don't know what that stat is now. It's got to be way through the roof now. They're averaging 15 missed tackles against Power 5 teams. More than 15, actually.
And you said 195 yards off those. If you look at the stats, it's about outgained by 201. It's about the difference right there.
There you go. That's a great point. I never thought about that. And that's like, 38, 39% of their total yards?
This is the adjusted box score, which is a little different, but 511 to 310 is the count I have.
If you just cut that in half, there you go.
That's a whole football field.
Rod, I think the inability to stop the run, that to me is the game in a nutshell, because if you look at the point in time where Texas had a chance, it's late in the game, it's 27-20. After Sam Ehlinger scores, and you pin them back deep, they got to go from the minus 25, and you got plenty of time. And it's okay. You get a stop here, and he'll get the ball back. You got a chance to maybe send it into overtime or maybe go win it.
Yep.
And what do? Kennedy Brooks goes for 42 on the first play of the drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I remember that.
And that's why, as good as the defense, the good things they did. they almost don't matter because it's like we talked about with the kicking game. Whatever good you did was overshadowed because the bad stuff you did negated the good stuff.
And it was so glaring. It was so bad.
Yes, you played well in the red zone, but that almost doesn't matter because you were so bad everywhere else.
I agree with that. Yeah, unfortunately.
That's just the way it goes, man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, even the turnovers, we talked about that. Todd Orlando, his defense is built around getting turnovers. And even for all the bad the defense did, I thought the game plan was, it might have been an arrogant game plan. Yeah, basically you can call it luck and you can call it him just being a skilled play caller in the red zone. But if Deshaun Jameson gets that other turnover, I'm telling you, I know it sounds crazy, but that's how impactful those turnovers were. You still had it. They were only 10 points at halftime, 20 points going into the fourth quarter. And that's how, if you'd have got a third one, it probably could have changed everything for Texas again. And that's why Todd Orlando's defenses are undefeated, 18-0.
It's a 17-10 game at that point, right, Matt?
I'm not sure the exact score. I think it was a one-score deficit.
I think they ended up getting a field goal out of it.
Deficit.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I think it could just the momentum again. You know what I mean? They were just huge. I don't even remember if we scored off those turnovers, like directly off of them. Did we? I don't think we did.
The first one, I know they didn't.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
I don't think they scored the second one either.
Yeah, I was saying they pretty much are wasted anyway, but they kept them off the scoreboard. You know what I mean? Yeah. And kept it a game. So turnovers are big, man. It's a cheat code if you can do it.
Yeah, but when you're that bad everywhere else, I mean, and look, there's a couple things I want to discuss. We're going to go long on this show, and I really don't care at this point.
Let's go a little bit on. Sorry.
There's a couple things though on Todd Orlando, Rod, and I know people are like, well, fire the guy. I'm not all for firing the guy, like because he's.
Who's saying that?
Well,
some people are. Some people are saying that. No, some people are saying
that it's not going to work.
I don't. Yeah,
they're not going to fire Todd Orlando.
Yeah,
now, and I know like the stats aren't good. Like they're on pace to have the worst defense in school history in terms of total yards allowed and passing yards allowed.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Also played the best two offenses in college
right,
football.
But
exactly,
it is what it is. This is going to sound stupid, so bear with me. The yards allowed don't really bother me.
Yeah,
it's
modern football.
It's what bothers me is the fact that we're 6 games into the season and we've got defensive players talking about we need to take better advantage of tackling periods in practice, and tackling technique is bad.
Yeah,
and you're not putting guys in the right position. You're basically not taking a look at your personnel and figuring out, okay, what can I do really well? And I know we go back to 17, and I know you had Poona Ford in the middle, and it was real easy to game plan. Like when you don't have to worry about that. But Rod, yeah, he had a few weeks to prepare for Missouri. But we talk about the injuries in that Texas Bowl game. No Deshaun Elliott, Holton Hill suspended, Malik Jefferson's injured. Like all the stuff that went wrong, and you still put together a really good plan and figured out, okay, like you basically got the best out of Antoine Davis. Like you had how many defensive coordinators that couldn't figure out what to do with Antoine Davis? You got the best out of him. You got the best out of Jason Hall. Like you got the best out of all these different guys. And I'm not saying that the 2019 defense will be an elite defense, but like I said, there's no reason why Chris Brown should ever be chasing around a guy like Charleston Rambo.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you should be counting on Dele Adebayo to do the same things Gary Johnson did. I think for Todd Orlando, does he have to simplify some things? Yeah, because clearly something's not right. But, and like you said, Rod, that does make you susceptible to being exposed. But I would almost rather you be simple. Like, go back to like the Greg Robinson era, right? In 2013, like there were areas where that defense still got exposed.
Yeah.
But they got good at doing like a couple of things.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's to me, that's the challenge for Todd Orlando. Take your personnel and figure out, okay, with this personnel, what's one thing you can get really good at doing? It's like we're having the same conversation like I remember talking about like Sean Watson offensively. Like figure out one thing you can do really well. Maybe it's a concept or a play, like something. There's got to be something you can do really well.
I agree with that.
And build off that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I can't tell you what this defense is really good at right now.
I can't either.
And what they hang their hat on.
But I'm not making 7 figures a year to figure that out.
Yeah, but even Tom Herman said the same thing you said. Tom Herman said, I would rather be fast, aggressive, and confident and be simplistic rather than be complex and guys, a little slow to react and guys thinking too much. So I think
with the young personnel that you have too,
yeah,
that makes
exactly.
sense.
And with all the injuries. So I think they will simplify things. And I don't know if that will mean just playing man. Usually the most simplest thing to do is just play man. Have me play man. You can't play man against everybody. So maybe find one man concept that you're real comfortable with and find one, zone concept or two that you're real comfortable with and I agree with you, and just kind of go with it and see if the guys can perfect it, see if they can get better at it. And obviously, game plan wise, you'll tweak things here. Maybe you'll put some deception in here, a pre-snap look with a post-snap, shell look, whatever. You might do some things like that, but for the most part, I mean, his defenses have been, I don't know, they've been complex, but I think they have been, they've gotten guys out of position. Like the guys don't seem like they can easily impact the game from whichever way he's using them. And we know we got good players, but you only have a few impact guys. Even like, Brandon Jones, I think moving him to nickel was a smart move. You know what I mean? So he's made some smart moves.
He's a good coverage.
Yeah, so I think, and we didn't really know that, but he saw that. So Todd Orlando can do this.
Oh, yeah,
I just don't know why
we've seen with Joseph Asai, nobody expected anything at the beginning of the year. He's the best piece of the defense now.
So I know he can do it. I just don't know it with all the injuries how he's going to go about it. Like what's the plan?
This goes back to the overriding theme we talked about, and that's the challenge for this staff. We know they can make these changes. Will they make these changes?
Todd Orlando will. I think I have faith in Todd Orlando. I've been saying that for a while.
I have faith in Tom Herman. Like, yeah, I
do too.
This staff is better than the plans we saw on Saturday.
That is true. Tom Herman worries me a little bit with the Rojo thing because I remember when Charlie Strong didn't want to start Deontay Foreman. Yeah, and I was like, it's a little stubborn for being stubborn for no reason. You know what I mean? Like just acknowledge that he's the better player.
The only thing that I see in this that I agree with you because it looks like just performance-wise for sure, but the idea that I don't think that he would be the 100% snapback. There's almost no 100% snapback.
Of course not.
So in that theory, if we understand that Keontae is going to have to be a part of it, I think sort of like a starter in the NBA or Ginobili and like Lou Williams, a six-man, like those type of guys, the label – I think carries more headline clout than the actual performance. So I think if there is any fragility, I don't even know if there is in Keontae's mind or anything, this may just be that stabilizing force. That's
sure
the only thing I see.
What it's done for me is basically got me to the point where I say, okay, basically your running back situation, the best you can hope for this year is that you get what you had last year with Watson and Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think you have two guys and you need both of those guys. It's just weird that a starter usually is like an achievement thing. It's like an award for being
meritocracy.
Yeah, being the best player and producing and production. It's just strange like that's not the case here. It's just weird. And I think we all know why.
Like Roshan's the ultimate team.
No, I think it's because they don't want Keontae Ingram to check out. Yep. I'm almost 100% positive that's what it is. I think otherwise they think he checks out, and then with Bijan coming in and other prospects coming in, that's a chance he not only checks out but checks out through the portal.
The one thing we can definitively say about running back is we know at this point at this time Keontae Ingram is not a championship caliber back, and I don't say that to demean him. I'm just saying a championship caliber back is like a Cedric Benson, where I know
I don't know if we have that on campus.
Well, but I'm saying this is what I'm going to get from him every week. I know what I'm going to get from him.
The consistency in the baseline. No, you don't have that. Rojo probably has more of that than he does. And I don't think Rojo necessarily has it either.
Foreman got to that level. We're okay.
I know what
I'm going to get from him every week. Jamal Charles got to that point. I know what I'm going to get from him every week.
Yeah, good point. He's not there. We don't have a back like that just yet.
You don't have one of those guys right now. Yeah, and you're still.
But at least Rojo's got two games back to back, which we haven't gotten out of Keontae, and he's done it with less time and less experience at that position, and he's a true freshman. Means his rate of development is quicker.
And one of those games for Rojo was the freaking Oklahoma game.
I know. Let's not forget that. Good point. Let's not forget that. Yeah. No.
Look, man. If you can go on the field with LSU and in the OU game, and
he did,
you don't flinch.
He didn't.
Probably got something about you.
I agree. You got some dog in him.
Well, obviously, we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about Kansas because
Kansas.
Why do we need to? No grass for Les Miles to chew at DKR unless he wants to gnaw on some of the turf. There's one interesting thing about Kansas, though, Rod. Is
Puka. Puka worries me.
Yeah. Puka should worry you.
With our linebackers hurt and all those guys we got hurt in the secondary, and we're leading the country in missed tackles. I seen Puka run on Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Puka. We should be worried about Puka.
Here's
very good.
Here's another really adjustment I'd like to see defensively. I want to see more movement up front.
I think we should. What do you mean, like guys like moving around like Oklahoma did, like pre-snap movement for the front?
I got to see more slanting, more stemming, more.
Oh, you mean like the loops and the twists and the stunts? Yes,
because you're athletic enough to do that.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of that up front either.
I just thought like
That's a good point.
Again, I go back to 2017. Yeah, you could beat teams straight up when you had Poona Ford playing over the ball.
Yeah. Well, even when Charles Omenihu as a straight up pass rusher, we seeing in the NFL
and then 2017
now,
line, you had both those guys. Same line.
He's a natural pass rusher, right? Had another strip sack. So
changed the game.
Yeah, you had some guys who, and we pointed out, you don't have any natural pass rushers.
Help your guys out.
Yeah, you don't have any organic pass rusher. We love Malcolm Roach, but he's not a pass rusher. Taquan Graham's not a pass rusher, and even Kendrick Coburn is a youngster.
He's still a redshirt freshman.
He's still a redshirt freshman. So so your front, there are three types of pressure: organic pressure, there's simulated pressure. And then I think there's like actual manufactured pressure where you're blitzing guys. Mm-hmm. Texas has to always have manufactured pressure because they never get it organically with their D-line. And I don't see us very often. I think you can get the simulated pressure too, but usually when simulated pressure is basically you're still bringing 3 or 4 guys, but you make it look like you're bringing 6, 7 guys. You know what I mean? But they never know where the pressure's coming from, that simulated pressure.
And I think with the injuries, you've got a linebacker and safety right now. I don't think
you can't do that because you'll be out of position too much. So right now, I don't think Orlando does is do, manufactured pressure, and everybody knows
and
that.
all those guys are out too.
And all those guys are out too.
Ones.
So pressure is going to be hard to come by against any quarterback in the Big 12. That's trouble. Even against Kansas.
With so many safeties out in your linebacker situation, like we said, Jawan Mitchell, if he plays, he's probably not going to practice much, if at all, this week. And even though Malcolm Roach, you don't get into the second half, well, hell, I would hope at this point you've seen enough of Bimage and Jacoby Jones to figure out, okay, we can at least count on this defensive line.
Yeah.
How can I help those guys be their best?
I agree with that.
And go with that.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about Kansas, aside from Puka, and I do think Puka can have a big game.
I'm scared of
defense.
I'm a little scared of Puka.
Because Puka didn't have a good game against Oklahoma. He still ran for 135, 137 on Oklahoma.
I know.
Brent Dearman, their offensive coordinator, which Les Miles did a weird thing. He brought in Les Koenig, the former Texas assistant coach who's been an OC for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He brings in, he kind of, I guess, to maybe oversee things, but like Brent Dearman's the guy that he wanted. Brent Dearman ran one of the best offenses in the country. It was at an NAIA level at Bethel College. Well, last year, they averaged 55.5 points a game.
Wow.
Scored 92 in one game, 80 in another. And Brent Dearman's the guy that's authored a book. Kevin Flaherty actually has a really good story at 24/7 Sports on Brent Dearman. The book is called The Evolution of the RPO. This guy's written a book
about the RPO.
Ooh,
okay.
And this is Kansas coming off of a bye week.
Okay.
They've had a whole week to get ready. They've had an extra week to get ready for Texas.
This is a big game for them. I mean, if Les wants to get a big upset, this would be a great week to upset Texas.
That's where his daughter went to school.
Texas.
I'm not saying Kansas is going to win this game.
No, but I'm telling you.
This is a game where if Todd Orlando doesn't make those adjustments we talk about, they can move the football.
I mean, that is I didn't realize that. That's a little dangerous. Lots of RPOs and now linebackers, right? RPOs are going to be targeting linebackers and safeties most of the time.
Putting those guys in conflict.
We got a lot of young guys.
When that goes, no, I don't think. It's again, this is so weird to say.
That's dangerous.
Outside of Deshaun Jameson and Anthony Cook, I don't know if anybody on defense has any confidence right now.
At least you got Brandon Jones. You got Brandon Jones back there.
Does, yeah.
But Overshown, I'm assuming is going to be the starting safety, correct?
You don't have anybody. It's either him or Montreal Estelle. You don't have anybody else.
And you know
if you go Lightning personnel, both those guys
they were Lightning in the Oklahoma game like 3 or 4 times.
Which wasn't enough. I mean, hell.
Yeah, I saw. I wasn't saying.
If you want to spy somebody, I mean, why shouldn't your 6'4"
Overshown got one of the hits? I think this might be a game for Overshown. I think I'll put Overshown out there. But you're right.
Why not?
I want to see him. You got a tackle against you. That guy likes to tackle. Put him out there. You know what I mean? I want to see Overshown. I think he should be the starting safety opposite Brandon Jones. I would take that. Maybe in Montreal Estell's going to play anyway. Like you said, it doesn't matter. They got to play. They're so short on bodies. They need guys to play.
Hell, Tyler Owen's showing up in the 2 deep now. Like that's where you are on bodies.
They're going to need him. Yeah, no doubt. Man, that worries me a little bit about the RPO. I'm worried about Puka. Still, though, I think Texas defensively should just have enough talent overall. But, man, I don't even know if there's a big gap in terms of their talent advantage because of all the injuries.
Well, and that's the issue because Puka first, like we can admit, like he's the guy that could be one of the few Kansas guys that could be on the Texas roster.
No doubt.
That's the level of player he is. Then when you go and couple that in that, we're saying Texas really got beat up on both lines of scrimmage.
They
Weren't
did.
able to get a pass rush and weren't able to stop it. And if you look at Kansas, actually, what they do well, and
Clint
then what
Bowen's
Texas
still there,
doesn't do well.
the defensive guy.
I'm not. He
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yep. And you look at Texas overall, like our D line sack rate down to 110th in the nation on passing downs, 127th in the nation. And then when you go across the board and look over at, I guess it'd be on the defensive side of the ball, Texas ends up being, or on the offensive side, sack rates down below 95th, 101st, and 105th. So you're talking about going up against a team where you may not be able to get to their quarterback. They have a good run game that is advantageous to their offense. And if they can get to your quarterback a little bit, that's how you can maybe force a turnover or two. So the recipe is the few things they do well don't match up well with Texas.
And getting back to my point about D-line, Matt,
scary.
you can pull this up while I'm talking about it. I looked at the numbers for the Texas defensive line before the Oklahoma game. I think, I want to say, I don't remember what category it was. There was only one category, if you look at Football Outsiders defensive line analytics, where they were better than 50th in the country. And I think they were 47th. I want to say it might have been like opportunity. I think it was opportunity rate allowed.
70th. So right now Texas is 52nd, I believe, in passing down line yards, and then 70th in opportunity rate allowed. But yeah, you're talking between 52 and 70th in most stats, except for sack rate and passing down sack rate, where you're 110th and 127th.
Yeah, your defensive line is 127th in the country in passing down sack rate.
Yeah, it's bad.
Well, we sort of knew that because of the way that Orlando builds its defense,
and the way
but it
he
still
uses
has
their
never
guys.
been this bad. It had always been upper in the 80s.
Well, 'cause you had at
it's
least
not this bad.
Yeah, you had a couple.
Minahu.
Exactly, I was gonna say you had a couple of guys that can at least get natural pass rush.
Barada, just to plant this seed in your head as you start thinking about Kansas prep, and I'll forward you this article so you can read it. This is Sam Castronova, who was Brent Dearman's quarterback at Bethel, talking about how they did everything. And this is, again, to Kevin Flaherty at 24/7 Sports, talking about how Brent Dearman views offense in terms of personnel packages. We were everywhere from empty to 21 personnel, and we did it in every game and we did all of them a game. I'd say our base was probably 11 with a tight end or an H-back, a guy who was a really good blocker but could also catch some passes if you need him to. We had a big boy who was 6'5", 270, but he was a tight end. So he could do both tight end and H-back last year. That was nice to have, blah, blah, blah. But basically, they're going to be anything from 21 personnel to empty to whatever.
Which is that's a lot of preparation for young guys who haven't gotten a lot of reps, a lot of mental reps for those guys.
I just butchered that reading it. Sorry.
It's mental strain. No,
I sound like the kid from Billy Madison trying to read it.
Today, Junior.
Yeah. It's awful.
No, man. I
have a college degree hanging on my wall, for God's sakes, and I just butchered that.
I thought
but
you
anyway.
meant it was awful making fun of children. Yes.
That's a level. It should be a level of concern for Texas. I think ultimately it comes back to, I don't know if this defense is going to be winning you games anymore.
It's not.
And I don't know if this special teams unit is going to be winning you games anytime soon. The truth is, they may be liabilities, honestly, considering the injuries you have. So I think it's going to be on the offense and Tom Herman to get better and get better quickly. Yeah, and they got to just start outscoring teams, because if you're counting on the defense to go out there and make plays, I think they're going to be even a little vulnerable against Kansas. And I know that sounds crazy. Like, oh man, that's great. And like, no, Puka Williams is a really good running back. They'll sell out to stop the run, and they'll take some shots. I know they will. They're stupid if they don't. Yeah, exactly. And Texas beat up.
We try to get to the quarterback. See what happens.
I mean,
the only team that hasn't moved the ball on you in some way, shape, or form was Rice.
Exactly. That's actually a really even better point. Yeah, right. And because Rice wants to play 18th century football. All right, with 3 fullbacks out there. So everybody else, they're a little bit more innovative and progressive.
And you know, Jeff, how we just looked at the D-line stuff, and Texas didn't have anything ranking in that top 50 or even near there.
Yeah.
You look at Kansas, they actually have on standard down sack rate, 56th in the nation. They get some pressure.
I'm telling you, I don't think Texas is going to lose, but I think Longhorn fans are going to be upset after this Kansas game. Some residual, frustration from the Texas OU game, but I don't think they're going to get because I know a lot of focus on the defense. But I don't know if the Texas fans are going to get any satisfaction out of this Kansas game. I think Kansas is going to play.
I think Kansas will put points up.
I think Kansas will put points up.
Yeah,
Matt, what's the line on this game right now?
It's moving towards Kansas. It opened at around 22-23, but it's 21.5 to 22 now.
Okay, I saw it at 22.
Yeah, over under at 61. And this is, like you were saying, Rod, this seems like the type of game where Kansas maybe offensively outperforms. Like Texas can still probably cover that. I like that it's home and at 7 o'clock. It's not like one of those 11 a.m. games at Kansas. And then though, like for the fan satisfaction though, if Kansas is moving the ball up and down the field, fans are going to be just as upset as you are right now and being frustrated at the defense.
I just think the defense is hurting, so they're going to be able to move the ball.
I'll say this is my parting shot. I know seems like we've been kind of doom and gloom on this podcast. I know that's how it can come off. But
or we're homers.
This is right. This is one of those losses. Tom Herman's really figured out. Like, nobody cares about Kansas this week because of how things went against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Tom Herman's figuring out, like, okay, this is what the Texas job is all about. Like, what's the famous Darryl Roll quote? The best thing is about this job is that 20 million people care, and the worst thing about this job is that 20 million people care.
Amen.
This is kind of a fork in the road moment for Tom Herman and this staff in terms of, okay, they know their best is good enough to beat anybody in the country. But Saturday, from a coaching staff standpoint, was not their best.
Not even close.
Are they willing to do what, like we said, Lincoln Riley and Nick Saban and Urban Meyer and Ed Orgeron have done, and Jim Harbaugh to his detriment, as it turned out this year? Are they willing to swallow their pride and say, okay, what I've done, what I think was good enough, didn't work. I need to change some things.
I think Tom Herman is willing. That's why all of his assistant coaches are on 1-year deals. So I know he's willing to do that. I just don't know. And I'm not saying that he's going to make a coaching change or anything like that. But in terms of he knows, no, I always have to be willing to adapt and evolve. So I agree with you. I think it is. It could be like a crossroads for the program. You know, you don't want to go down the wrong path. I think he brought this up too. He said, if you're going, he said something about driving, right? If you're driving down
I-35,
right? You realize you're going the wrong way. You need to turn around and go the right way. You don't need to keep going the wrong way. Right?
That's a really mincy one.
Yeah, that was the analogy you gave. But I mean, to your point, this is it. This is the point where you go, well, you know what? This isn't good enough. Let me go hire Alex Grinch. I actually found out that 2 years ago, Oklahoma hired Shane Beamer.
Yeah.
The son of Beamer Ball, they could he's their special teams coach because they thought their special teams wasn't good enough. Texas might need a special teams coach.
Shane Beamer's name came up in a Texas coaching search.
He did. I remember
I want to say it was one of when Charlie made some changes.
I remember this because remember we talked about it, I believe.
Maybe it was Charlie's initial staff. I don't remember.
He's come up before, but I remember I was like, man, we should try to get that guy.
Yeah.
Guy is great.
I know Shane Beamer's name has come up in Texas.
Yeah, but then he works for Oklahoma now. Last year they brought him on as their special teams coach and something else. Yeah. But they've revamped things. I'm not saying Texas staff is not adequate and they won't get the job done, but man, you got to be willing to evolve quickly because like you said, Oklahoma is ahead of you right now, and they have been ahead of you as as overall program for a little while, and it's just time to think about closing that gap. You can't, that needs to be a priority.
With the exception of that 4 or 5 year window where you had Vince Young and Colt McCoy, they've been the better program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree.
You won 4 or 5 then, and they've won most of the other ones.
Yeah,
they've won 14. Was it 14 of the last 21?
Yeah, but lately it's been, and hopefully Lincoln Riley will be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately with the 2 Heisman back-to-back winners and the number 1 overall picks, they're getting even more random, acknowledgement and people, I don't, as a Longhorn fan, I know it's not good for us on that side of the rivalry.
They're getting the glitz and the glamour becoming cool now.
Everybody thinks Oklahoma, exactly. We want to go to Oklahoma and play offense.
And Bob,
you're like, no. I don't like the way that's working.
Young, hip,
in an offensively driven era, they are known for having the best offense in college football year after year. I don't like the way that's working out.
No.
It's a bad narrative for Texas.
But I think that to me is kind of my overriding theme is that's where this program is at. Tom Herman's gotten this program back to where, okay, you can compete week in and week out, and you should, with the talent you've got, the way you develop guys, everything else, you should be a 9-10 win team every year.
Yeah, because Oklahoma is the only acceptable loss, and whoever that big non-con is.
But now you're talking about, he said it to the team, you're on the edge of elite. What are you going to do to push yourself over the edge? For Tom Herman, that should be waking up every day. What do I have to do today to be better than Lincoln Riley?
I would like to see them because I hear about people doing. We talked about how the Saints and Sean Payton, they have their R&D department now. Everybody has a research and development department. All coaches do it. Man, I want him to start stealing more plays. I would always watch plays. I'm like, man, Texas should run that play. That would be a great play.
Yeah.
I never
all
see.
Belichick does is steal stuff.
That's all
like
they do is steal. All the football is now is just stealing plays from the other guy. That's all. Everybody's stealing plays from Shanahan and stealing plays from Andy Reid and stealing plays from. I mean, I know we've stolen some stuff from good coaches. We stolen some of Lincoln Riley stuff. Go steal more stuff. No, I'm serious. Like you look like you are stuck right now. Yeah,
or even on defense. Like I said, like what's stopping you, Tom? What's bothering you?
Yeah, I think he's got play designers block. Like I would like him to like start expanding. I know the 11 personnel, you love it, but hell, now even in the NFL right now, teams are expanding right now. If Sean McVay's getting his butt whipped because all he's running, he's 11 personnel. Like you got to. People start figuring it out, man. They're really smart football guys. Like, throw them more information to process.
Yeah. Exactly. You need to keep like every year or two, you're going to see, and we've seen it throughout football. I mean, every year there's some new wrinkle that's thrown in, and then it's incorporated. But then also, if you just beat the dead horse home, it can be stopped very quickly. And that's where keeping something fresh so you're unpredictable. It seems simple, but it's maybe complex.
Like I said, I'm not down on this staff. I'm not thinking
not
they're
either.
garbage or that everybody needs to be fired. I'm a firm believer in Tom Herman, but now, like I said, you're one of those points where it's like, okay, you've gotten to this point with what you do. Now it's time to change it up and take the next step and evolve a little bit.
But the difficult thing is what he did. I don't think it'll work like against the rest of the Big 12, but it may be good enough. Devin Duvernay, those screens and what you do may be good enough to beat the rest of the Big 12.
Kansas.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe Iowa State is enough for them, and maybe it's enough to beat TCU. I don't know. But your point is, I think the best point is it wasn't enough to beat Oklahoma. So that's why that should be the goal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can beat everybody else, whatever, your rudimentary, kind of core principles. But when you play Oklahoma, you got to bring your A+++ game every time.
And that's the frustrating thing,
you
Rod,
didn't bring it.
That's what we saw in the Georgia game last year.
We did. Well, I think
on both sides.
I think we saw a better game plan versus Oklahoma last year in the Big 12 title game in terms of creativity and innovation. I saw more wrinkles. There was nothing I saw in that game that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
Not one thing. I was like, man, so everything they watched on film is backed up? Oh, well, no wonder they whipped you like you stole something.
Yeah.
They were ready for
everything.
everything.
That may be a coming to Jesus moment. We aren't as good as we thought we were because it sounds like Tom thought we were going to go out there and we got dudes and Sam's going to make plays. He's going to put the ball on them, which he sort of did in some points, and we just didn't make plays, and it just didn't work out.
Didn't little Jordan Humphrey like run a touchdown in like last year, the Texas OU game?
I think he had one run. I know he had the passing touchdown. I think he did have one run.
Yeah, passing. Okay. I would say
there were wrinkles.
They had wrinkles the last two times we saw. It was like this time for some random reason he was like, no, we're gonna beat him straight up, and that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was strange because he's not like that. And to your point earlier you made, this was an uncharacteristic loss for Texas because they were ill prepared and they got pushed around. And Tom Herman teams, they got punked. They got deboed. And Tom Herman's teams never get punked. Even when they lose, they don't get punked.
Right.
And they got punked.
Even like you go back to the TCU game his first year, like, they lost 24-7, but there was a clear talent mismatch between the Texas offense and the TCU defense that day.
Yeah, I remember that.
Texas offense had no chance.
Yeah. With the Shane Buechele.
But their effort, their physicality, kept them in the game. I think that was like a 10-7 game going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, that's why. Yeah, I don't get it, but I think they'll learn from it. No question.
Yeah, and if they do, if they learn from it, then if they're fortunate enough to get Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship game, I guarantee you we'll see a different game play out than the one we saw Saturday.
Oklahoma will be better too.
Which is why
Oklahoma will be better too.
Which is why you got to evolve.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Matt, thanks for everything, man.
Hey, you're more than welcome.
Rod B, appreciate the time and the knowledge.
Anytime, brother, anytime.
For Matt, for Rod, for Travis, the best damn videographer in the podcast game, for everybody at the Austin Radio Network and the Horn 1049, 1019, AM 1260, streaming on the Horn app and at hornfm.com, where you can get Rod B on the Rodcast each and every weekday from 1 to 3.
Shameless plug.
Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the podcast. Don't forget to like us and leave us a review. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And anywhere you get your podcasts, if I could talk right today. And thanks to Matt, you can get our archives and classic shows on the Longhorn Blitz SoundCloud page.
Yep, just type in Longhorn Blitz.
For the Horn family, for the Horns 24/7 family, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for downloading and listening, and we will catch you again on the next episode.
You've been listening to Longhorn Blitz with horns247.com. Remember, for the latest Longhorn news 24/7, visit horns247.com.